Girl, you've been showing up in your business, working hard, doing all the right things to bring in more customers, but the results just aren't there. And you might think it's a get more clients problem, but what if it's actually something else holding you back? In this episode, we'll uncover the three simple steps that consistently lead to more clients and why most entrepreneurs miss them. You're going to see how the right schedules, systems, and strategies don't just help you get more leads, but also follow up, stay consistent, and scale your results over time. So, if you've been busy all day but not seeing measurable progress, then this conversation will show you what's really going on and how to finally shift into using a system that produces the kind of results that you've been praying for. Are you here for that? Good. Let's dive in. Ah, girl, lately I've been having so many conversations with business owners, and here's what I'm hearing over and over again. Lissa, I don't really have a time problem. It's more of a fill in the blank. And one of the most common ones I hear is not getting enough customers, right? Which means I don't have enough money. That is what we see as our problem. So, I wanted to address that on today's podcast episode because there really is actually a different problem that actually needs to be addressed, right? Because when you think about it, there are three simple steps to getting customers. You need to bring in new leads, you need to have conversation with those leads, and then you need to invite those leads that are qualified to work with you. Which tells me if you aren't getting customers, then you don't have the time scaling tools you need in place to do those three things. You don't have the right strategies in place to map out how you're focusing on one main thing to bring in those leads. You don't have the right systems in place to not only execute what you need to do to bring in the leads, but to follow up with them over time. And you don't have the right schedules in place to give consistent, focused time to bring in those leads and have conversations with them until they say yes, nor, or no, or one of you goes to meet Jesus. Yes, I'm serious. That's sometimes how long it takes. And yes, I understand that there's a messaging element involved, but for most business owners, it's not as much what you say, but when and how often you're saying it. And that has everything to do with your time. So, if it feels like you're working really hard because you're busy all day long, but you're not making measurable progress, the good news is you don't have a get customers problem. You have a time problem, and that's easy to solve. Why? Well, RODI, return on time invested, aka results, tells you something about your time, either where it's going or where it's not going, right? Because input determines your output. So either it's not getting time, it's not getting focus time, or it's not getting focus time over long enough time. And all of this is solved by changing when, where, what, why, and how you invest your time to get that result. That's where the time scaling schedules, systems, and strategies come in. Because time invested will always produce RODI. It's not magic, girl, it's math. And when you make it kingdom math, because you're doing it with God, then watch out because you are about to multiply your results. But if you're the girl who's listening right now and you want to skip the line and stop wasting time and money on all the shiny objects promising to help you get more clients or whatever that thing is, and then just sits in your inbox or you don't have time to consume it and actually implement, and you want to get right to what business owners are using to not just get clients or customers or even consistently get clients and customers, but to consistently scale getting clients and customers, then girl, check out CEO Impact at redeemhertime.com/coaching, or just click the link in the show notes. You can jump right in today and join us for our next group coaching call, where I'm going to teach you exactly what to do to get these time scaling schedules, systems, and strategies set up in your business in just 3 weeks or less. So you never again say, I have a getting customers problem. How amazing would that feel? But you're here because you're not seeing the clients, right? Or you want to scale the number you see coming in. So if that's true, I need to tell you the truth. Until you put the schedules, systems, and strategies in place and recognize it's actually a time problem, it's not going to happen. Or you may start getting clients, but you won't be able to sustain or scale those results. But the good news is you don't need to set a higher goal of more clients, thinking that will motivate you, or lower your goal to make it easier to hit so you don't feel so bad. Because just having the goal isn't going to get there. It's the schedules, the systems, and the strategies that will, because it's about the investment of time even when you don't feel it. Let me give you a personal example, and then we're going to apply this to your business. So, I hear people say all the time, I think of you a lot, but I'm just not good at reaching out. So let me ask, how many times have you thought of someone and meant to reach out, or started messaging but then got distracted, or actually wrote the note or text but never hit send, and then days, weeks, months, years go by and you don't connect? Or maybe you don't even think of them. So people say to me all the time, Lisa, you're really good at reaching out. Do you want to know my secret? I just created a schedule, system, and strategy around the result that I wanted, the roadie. First, I identified the goal and how it connected to how God is growing me. I know that He's given me some relationships that He wants me to invest in. So I made a list of family, friends, clients, peers that I felt called to invest in and committed to reaching out to at least one person a day to stay connected and ask how I can pray for them. But how many of us start with great intentions like that? And you're good for maybe the first day or two. Exactly, right? Who just remembers to do something like that? Don't worry, I don't either. That's why next I created a system. Since part of my goal was praying for them, I researched some prayer apps and I found one that worked really well for me. It's called Prayer Mate. And yes, I highly recommend it. And what I did is I went in and I created a card for each person on my list under family, friends, and clients. Now, this app also allows you to schedule people. So some people got scheduled weekly, others monthly, and others every few months. Not that I couldn't reach out in between, but this way, I had a system that kept me from dropping the ball or letting too much time go by. And then finally, I plugged it into my schedule because just having that app on my phone isn't going to get it done. And since this involved prayer, I made it part of my morning refill each day. After I pray for whoever is on my prayer app that day, I send them a quick text message to follow up on something they shared or something I saw them post on social, or just sometimes to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. How can I be praying for you? And would you believe that leads to so much conversation and even more connection? Let me tell you, time investment goes a long way in building relationships. Are there days I think I don't have time or I have a lot to do and I'm tempted to skip it because I don't feel like it? Sure. But because I built the schedule, the system, and the strategy that's distraction proof and connected to my roadie of healthy, growing relationships, I don't. So instead of just saying, well, I'm just not good at it, or I want to, or I should do it more, but don't, instead, that's why you need a schedule, a system, and a strategy. So, how does this apply to your business and your problem with getting customers? Well, here are 3 steps plus a bonus tip to get more customers. Are you ready? The key is to know what to do, when to do it, and how it connects to where you're growing. So, step number 1 is to map out your strategy. First, you need to know the goal, aka the roadie. You can't just say, I want to get more customers. How many? For which programs? Is that per month, per week, per day? When you get specific on the result, then you will avoid the how do I know when I get there or if this thing is even working. You see, I couldn't just say I wanted to be better at connecting with people. I had to get specific about who I wanted to be intentional with and what that looked like. And this is where growth mapping comes in, where you take a big goal and you start mapping it out into milestones and breaking it down into steps to go from where you are now, maybe getting a little or a few new clients per month, to where you want to be, getting 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 new clients per month. Step number 2, build the system. Next, you need to take these steps and put them in order to create a process that's repeatable, and then put in a place that makes it easy to execute. What will you do first when that new lead comes in? Then what will you do second, third, fourth, fifth? And how much time will there be between each step? And how are you going to remember to reach back out to that person to follow up on what they last told you or to invite them to take a next step? In my example, I used the prayer app. Sure, it took me a little bit of time to get it set up, but then it was so easy to use that it kept me from dropping the ball. But in my business, I use what's called a CEO dashboard. It's one tab that holds all my systems. Let me just say, following up with leads is just one of the systems that I've created to make my time and my team's time so much more productive. I have them for onboarding new clients, creating publishing content, guesting and collaborating, hosting workshops, webinars, events, you name it, it's there. And then step number 3 is plug it into a schedule. because now you need to know when you're going to execute that system consistently to move towards that growth goal and actually see the roadie. The question is, how much time will you commit and how often? I call this the frequency factor. In our example, will you do follow-ups every day, some days, or just once a week? I don't really recommend the last one, but if that's all you have for now, just once a week, being consistent and focused once a week is way better than being inconsistent or distracted several days a week, or pushing it off altogether because you think you don't have time, or because you forgot. In my example, right, it wasn't just because I had it in the app, and it wasn't just because I had the goal of reaching out. I had to make it part of my daily morning refill. The time in my day when I'm focused on refilling my body, mind, and spirit, and not distracted by inboxes or to-do lists. In my business, I make following up with leads part of my power hour Monday through Thursday. And I do that before I get into anything else because you know how good it feels to get yeses before 10 a.m.? I'm sure you can imagine that follow-ups aren't the only thing that I plugged into my ideal week template, or that you can too. It helps you do everything from having consistent focus time for podcasting, serving clients, supporting my team, you name it. And then our bonus tip is this: track and evaluate your roadie. You see, this is where a lot of business owners drop the ball because once they map the strategy, they build the system, and they plug it into a schedule, it's tempting to just settle into just checking boxes or handing off to a team to check the boxes. Now, it may feel good because you're doing the do, but don't neglect to really pay attention to the results it's producing. Because in order for schedules, systems, and strategies to work in your business, you need to pay attention to your numbers. How many days are you or your team executing that system? How many clients are you bringing in monthly, weekly, daily? Where are the most clients coming in from? You have to know your numbers to know if it's working or not working, so that way you can make changes or updates to either get to the roadie you're looking for or to scale it to the next level. That's why you hear me talking about the roadie method a lot around here. Because if the roadie, return on time invested, isn't there, that just tells us you need to go back to your time investment, which is going to happen in your schedules, your system, or strategies. That's where we make the adjustments. So these 3 steps work for anything you want to see happen in your business, whether it's bringing in more leads, signing more clients, creating more cash flow, or they also work in your life. Maybe it's about losing that weight or finishing that house project or growing that relationship. Because this process takes you from great intentions or random attempts that don't get you very far to consistent action and focused attention towards where you want to go. And the best part, you don't have to try to remember or even feel like it. Because when you have all 3, the schedules, systems, and strategies in place, girl, you are going to eliminate decision fatigue and shiny object syndrome, both of which will have you going in different directions and wasting time. Because with set up like this, all you have to do is show up and execute. And girl, your success will be inevitable. How do I know? Because it focuses your time and keeps you consistent. And consistent focused time will produce a result, right? That's what roadie is all about. So now do you see how you don't just have a get customers problem or whatever other fill in the blank problem you think you have in your business? You have a time problem. But don't worry, it's easily fixed by getting the right schedules, systems, and strategies in place, along with the right support. In fact, this is what's going to help scale your business because you'll always know that you're doing exactly what you need to do when you need to do it in a way that's connected to where you're growing. Can you see what's possible when you have these 3 in place? That's why I'm inviting you to jump into CEO Impact, my group coaching program where we're going to get your schedule, systems, and strategies up and running in 3 weeks or less. And then you'll get my support as you continue to grow over an entire 12 months. So that way, not only are you getting more clients, but you are scaling your business and doing the very thing that God has called you to do. So you can go check it out at redeemhertime.com/coaching or click the link in the show notes. And let's change your problem from, Lissa, I'm not getting clients, to, Lissa, how do I support all the clients that are coming in? Girl, talk about a good problem to have. And guess what? We're going to be talking about that next Monday. But in the meantime, I'll see you over inside the Redeem Her Time community where we'll talk more about this. Thanks for joining me for this episode. Until next time, remember, instead of chasing time on the clock, trying to control it, receive the gift of time from the one who truly holds it. Because as his daughter, you have time.